welcome to your Wednesday morning Pilates Yoga Fusion. So I have this blanket, and if you have a blanket and you don't have yoga blocks, this will work just fine. So if you take your blanket and kind of roll it up, and it can be a little thicker, like you can roll it depending on the blanket and how much lift you want to get. You can roll it up a little closer or a little longer. And it can go down that way so that you lay down on it like, oops, I gotta scooch back. Lay down on it like this. Okay, so it sort of starts where the ribs are and elevates your chest. Or you can put it crossways so it goes just across the middle of the chest. Or if you prefer a little bit firmer support and you happen to have some yoga blocks handy, you can do this. So one yoga block goes, I like mine across. Some people like it the narrow way. And then one yoga block a little higher, I'm going to put that under my head. Okay. So then you would put that block, and if you use your blanket crosswise, it'll go in the same place, just beneath the shoulder blades. And then this goes just under your head. All right, see, this is a much bigger shape, right? So you're going to choose based on how it feels to you. Now your legs can be all the way out straight. You could put your feet together to make a little butterfly shape, or you can rest the feet on the floor and find a spot where the thighs just kind of relax. Right? I sort of like the straight one today, so I'm going with that. So what we've done, what we've created here is an opportunity to sort of stretch out the chest. I tend to sleep in a curled up position, so this feels really nice to do in the morning. We're going to take nice deep breaths. And we're still trying to get some movement in the intercostal muscles. Like, as you're breathing, you're trying to expand the chest and the ribs, in addition to, abdominal movement as well. And hopefully you can hear me okay. There's people in my neighborhood trimming hedges and mowing things. So we're going to stay here for about another minute. Just breathing and relaxing into the shape. As I'm laying here, my shoulders are kind of relaxing a little bit more. My arm bones are getting a little heavier on the floor. So I'm noticing the impact of this particular choice of pose to start with. So take another deep breath. Let go with a big and then we're going to take the props out from under us. So whether it's a blanket or a block, you're just going to take those guys out. And then this is my favorite part of it, which is to come back onto your back and feel how that left you. It might be nice to do like a little back massage by hugging the knees in and getting a little higher up the back. It might be nice to rest the feet on the floor, do little windshield wipery moves. For me, this kind of sensation of the upper back releasing out, having taken the props out, is really lovely. And so just seeing, is there a sense that I can get a little more breath in? So we're going to let the arms stay resting on the floor, and the upper back resting on the floor. You're going to bring your knees in, and you can take them over to one side. Now, you can do this by placing the feet on the floor, picking the pelvis up and moving onto the hip, side of your hip. And that's one way to get to a twist. You can also, If it doesn't feel crummy in your low back, you can let the legs kind of fall over. Once you're here, we're gonna let this outer hip and this muscle across the chest and across the sideways kind of stretch out. You can potentially take your knees a little further over or take the bottom leg out a little straighter. I've just wrapped one leg over the other. If there's discomfort here, that's too far. Back off a little bit. We're going to take a nice big breath. Let go with an exhale. And then huck the navel in a bit as you return to the center. And again, pause for a moment. Move a little bit. I like to move through the shoulders and the arms as well as the legs. And then notice if that side of your body feels a little different, and just double checking that there's no discomfort now that you've let the pose go. Sometimes if there's discomfort after you've let the pose go, that's a good indication that it's too much. All right. So we're going to take the legs the opposite direction, and again, you can stack them up. There could be a blanket underneath your knees. You can let that top leg drift out. Shoulders stay on the mat as best you can or on the floor. If you're not using a mat, you might not be using a mat. And then feeling the chest muscles, the outer hip, and some of the muscles that wrap between the rib cage and the spine, rib cage and the hip, and the rib cage and the spine. All sort of tractioning out a bit, lengthening, getting a little attention. A little bit of our awareness in addition to our touch. And you know, like if you were massaging yourself with your yoga pose, some people are more inclined towards deep tissue work. I'm a fan of Swedish massage, so I'm not pulling myself so tightly, right? If I were massaging myself with this pose, I would be kind to myself. I wouldn't want to abuse me. And we'll take one more big breath here. And then you'll exhale, hug your navel in a bit so you create a little structure, and then come on back to the center. Okay. So feeling again, there might be a little movement in the legs. So now we're going to do that twisting action as a warming movement. So we're going to try to let the obliques kind of help do most of the work here. So taking the knees up so they balance about over the top of the hip, or just around belly button height. We're going to take the legs over to the side. Now, if you have room and you can extend one or both of your legs, you're welcome to do that. I'm just going to hug my knees together and kind of draw them up toward my armpit because I've got a little more room for that. Then come back to the center, pick the pelvis up, come down. So we've got a little bit more action in that lower belly as well. So bringing the legs either into a straight position or hugging them in. Coming back to the middle, lift, okay? So, and you're just guiding your breath based on how you're working this. You might want to exhale as you straighten that leg out so you have a little more structure. You might want to inhale there. Recognizing that when you exhale, you can draw the abs in a little bit more to help support you. And when you're inhaling, you need a little bit more space. So you're going to try to work that breath up into the higher parts of your body so that your abdominals are not being overly impacted by your breath. All right, we're going to do that one more time. Down the center, over to the side. And then as you come back, now you should be even on both sides. So if you needed to do half of one, do that. As you come back, you're going to pause there. And that movement almost always makes me travel down my mat. So I'm just going to come back up a bit. So I've got a little more room for extending my legs. So I'm going to extend my left leg all the way out. Now if that's uncomfortable, you can of course leave that foot on the floor. And then I'm going to bring my right leg in and give it a little hug. So holding onto this leg, I'm going to spin my foot in some circles and then go the other direction. And then we're going to point and flex the foot. so that we're working the ankle joint and working the toes. Okay, so now, with the foot flexed, we're going to press up through the heel. You might have to let go of your leg. Point the toe, bring the knee in nice and snug, hug it in against you. Press the heel away from you. Feeling that stretch in your hamstrings, bend the knee, hug it in. One more time, pressing the heel away. We're just going to hold that stretch for a moment, pull the toes down. If it's within your range of motion to grab your toe, you can do that as well. Helps me get my calf muscles. All right, last breath here. All right, good. So we're going to bend this knee, and we're going to try to bring the knee kind of down towards the floor, and then we're going to stretch this side out. So reaching into this long left side. Stretch the leg, stretch the arm. You might even do kind of almost a little bit of a curl to the side. All right, so then we're going to let that guy go. Okay. So stretching this leg out and seeing if there's a difference between the leg you've just done and the leg you haven't done yet. Let your right leg rest on the floor, bring your left knee in, give that guy a hug. Holding in nice and snug, spin the foot. And you're holding your leg however you can hold your leg. Like if you need to use a strap to hold your leg, use a strap. If you need to hold on with your pants, hold on with your pants. You're going to be fine. You don't have to do the same thing everybody else is doing. All right, go the other direction. The good news about practicing at home is you don't have anybody else to look at, really. It's just you and me on the screen, maybe. So we're spinning the foot that opposite direction, and then you're going to point and flex your foot. Sometimes one leg's a little different than the other, so you might be noticing a difference in the ankle joint between this one and the last one. All right, so as you flex the foot back, we're going to extend that leg. You might have to let go of it because you and your hamstrings don't have that kind of relationship, and then hug the knee in. Push the heel away, stretch up through the back of the leg. Point the toe, come on back in, give it a hug. And then one more time, we're going to flex the foot, press the heel out, and just hold it as you can. And again, if it's within your range of motion, hold on to your big toe. Hold on to your big toe. I'm getting a good amount of calf stretch right here, so I'm going to stay. Take one more breath. Okay, so then we're going to grab hold of the foot. We're going to pull that thigh as best we can, almost all the way to the ground. And then I'm using this as an opportunity to stretch out this hip flexor, the front of my hip. Because I'm a little suspended on that right side. So I've got some room to kind of extend out through the front of the hip. Okay, let that go. Give your legs a little movement. And then stretch yourself out. And see where that landed you for a moment. Okay, so hopefully what we've done for ourselves is we've released some tension from the legs and the pelvis. And now we're going to do a few things to work out this kind of middle zone here. So we're going to take this right leg straight back up. And we're going to try to hug in through the sides of the waist. So I'm pulling the sides of my waist in like I'm wearing a corset. I'm pressing the tops of my shoulders down, pressing the palms down into the floor, reaching out nice and long through this left leg and anchoring it to the ground. You're going to come across and then sweep a circle out and around. Now, if you've got furniture and things that you're going to drag off the off your coffee table, definitely make a smaller circle. And then if there's a popping sensation in your hip, you can also see about changing your range of motion. Okay, we're going to do one more circle going that way. As you come up to the top, just noticing, is my pelvis moving at all? We're going to try to really hold this pelvis steady now. As you take the leg out to the side, this other pelvis is going to want to lift, other half of your pelvis. Come on back, going out, and coming back through the center, going out to the side. Bring it to the middle, come straight up, and then two more of those. And one more of those. Really hold and steady through your abdominal muscles. Okay, so now we're going to hug the right leg in. You're going to curl your shoulder blades up off the mat, hover your left leg. Now, a lot of us try to drag ourselves with our neck. So rather than do that, if you have some issues with your abdominal muscles not being as strong, place your hand behind your head. Press your head into your hands so your neck is nice and stable. We're going to switch and curl up a little tighter. Switch, ha. You can also reach out towards the leg, ha, in this single straight leg stretch. So we're reaching, ha, curling in, getting all that air out, ha, ha, ha. Try to get a little bit more air under there without pulling on your neck. Your head's pushing into your hands. Oh, it's not easy to talk and do this at the same time. Ha. 2 more. Ha. Last one. Ha. Ha. Okay. Bring both knees in. Put your head back down. We're going to let this right leg go. Stretch that all the way out. Give it a little shimmy. Oh. And then this left leg is going to come up straight. And again, I'm going to bring the shoulder blades underneath me. Hug in through the sides of the waist. Get it good and snug. Press the upper arms and upper back down into the floor. Leg comes across. As I sweep a circle, I'm using my abdominal muscles to control the movement of my pelvis. So going out, using the abs as stabilizers. Ooh. Okay, going across, making a circle. We're going to do that one more time. Coming across, making a circle. Really hold that hip steady. Now this is the one where the hip is going to stay steady as you go out to the side, coming up to the center. Okay, 3 more of those. Out to the side, and up through the center. Now, once you've gotten to that third one, you're going to bring that knee in, give that guy a little hug. Bring your other knee in, give that guy a little hug. And then we're going to pause here for just a moment, and I'll show you 3 different possibilities for the leg lower. Now, here's the thing. What we're trying to do with the leg lowers is we're trying to really force these lower fibers of the transverse abdominis to stabilize our pelvis. We are not necessarily trying to get rid of our low back curve. What we're trying to prevent it from doing is over-exaggerating, okay? Because we're gonna really put a lot of leverage on the hip flexor muscles. Because as the hips go away from the body and come towards the body, we're putting a lot of pressure on those guys. So if your low back arches off the floor, that's the problem, okay? So we're not trying to eliminate our low back curve. We're just trying to use the abdominal muscles to stabilize the low back curve in a position that's neutral. All right, so I can, if I'm stronger, again, do that little basket with the head and then use the abdominals to flex the spine a bit, and that's gonna stabilize me, but I also have to hug in through the sides of the waist, and then as the legs are lowering down, I'll want to only go as low as I can maintain this stability, okay? You can also leave your head on the ground, especially if you're prone to using the neck muscles more than you should, and your arms can either go underneath the pelvis just to create a little basket to hold that steady, or you can go beside your pelvis if that's too much or not enough. All right, so squeezing the legs together, balance pretty much over the hips. We're also going to stretch into the toes and kind of spread them apart. Hug in through the sides of the waist, and you're hugging and supporting that curve in your low back. Here we go. Lowering down for 4, 3, 2, 1. When you feel that work, really get hard. Don't go anywhere. 3, 2, 1. Come on back, but don't go lower than that. Okay? Legs are glued together. Lowering down. 4, 3, 2, 1. Hold. Stretch into the toes. 3, 2, 1. Come on back. Good. Lowering 4, 3, 2, 1. Hold. 3, 2, 1. Come on back. Good. 4, 3, 2, 1. Hold. 4, 3, 2, 1. Come on back. I'm going to try to do 2 more. If it's your hip flexors are tight, you could do a little shimmy. Here we go. 4, 3, 2, 1. Hold in through those abs. 3, 2, 1. Coming on back. Last one. Here we go. 4, 3, 2, 1. Hold those abs. 4, 3, 2, 1. Come on back. All right, release your legs. Oh, I love that so much. It really makes me work these lower abdominal muscles, and I think it's really delightful. You may not be as in love with it as I am. So once you've rinsed yourself out a bit here, oh, we're gonna roll like a ball, yogis. So we're gonna give ourselves a little hug, and then you're gonna, sometimes the hardest one is the first one. You're gonna rock yourself up, and then hugging the legs in nice and close. Rock back and up as round as you can. Try to catch at the top with your abs. So you're catching, it's almost like a little boat pose. If you can do it, 3 more. Whee! Whee! Now catch at the top. Oh, good. All right. Need a drink of water. Let's come up to all fours. Now, once you get there, if your back was not super duper in love with the rolling like a ball, it's great for some of us, and then for some of us, not as great. You can spend a little extra time giving your back some love, and just concentrate on the movement in the spine. If that wasn't as big an issue for you, what you can do is add on to that movement a little bit. So we're still going to move the back up and down, but maybe I also tuck the toes under and press back through the heels. And I might even add some different positions for the hand to get to the wrist a little differently. Leaning back, I can get into my low back and one of my wrists pretty nicely. And then I might do the same thing on the other side. Just finding the right angle so that my wrist feels like that's a good thing and not abusive. Okay. So do one more breath. All right, so we're gonna do a spinal balance. Now, I'm on a carpeted surface and that carpeting is really squishy. And so it tends to pressurize my wrist when I try to keep my hands really close. It pressurizes my wrist more than I like. You might just be on a really hard floor surface, wherever you're practicing. So I'm gonna take my hands slightly further forward, even though that may not be optimal in terms of stabilizing me. It is optimal in terms of the health of my wrist. So I'm gonna take my right leg back behind me. There's a tendency to try to lift the hip when we do that. So instead, you're gonna try to keep the hip level, hug in through the sides of the waist. Take the left arm up, we're gonna stretch into those 2 points. And again, you're choosing appropriately so your wrist is in a decent kind of position. Draw in and hug. We're gonna take 2 more breaths here. Just reaching out into that spinal balance. With your exhale, bring everything down. Okay, so switch into the opposite side. Ooh, that feels nice. I like the way that one feels. You're gonna stretch out, and again, we're gonna hug in through the sides of the waist and reach out nice and long. And give it a good long stretch. Good stretch, 2 more. And last breath. Good, then come on down. All right, so we're gonna add on to that with a little bit of movement. So coming back to our first side, right leg, left arm. Nice big inhale, reach out. Exhale, curl in. Now maybe your elbow and your knee touch, or maybe your forehead and your knee touch. It doesn't matter as long as you're doing the work. So stretch out, inhale. Exhale, everything hugs into the midline. One more time, stretch out. Everything hugs into the midline. Lift it a little higher, and then stretch it out and bring it down. Right on, other side. Left leg, right arm, nice long stretch, and then hug it in, and stretch it out, and hug it in, and stretch it out. Oh, yogis, that feels good. Hug it in, hold right there, lift a little higher, and then come back out. All right. Now, yogis, I'm going to take myself back to child's pose for just a moment and give it a little side-to-side wobble. We're going to take ourselves to a low lunge. So we're going to bring the right leg forward. And then if you need some extra padding under your knee, please add that extra padding. Sorry. So we're going to take the hips forward, and then we're going to take the hips backward. We're going to take the hips forward, and then we're going to take the hips backward. Now, I've got a hand on the floor. You could also be doing this kind of floating up. Take the hips forward and take the hips backward. And then we're going to come forward a little at a time until it feels like just the right amount of sensation right there on the front of this hip, in this case my left hip. And so as I'm easing into that, I'm also increasing the amount of back bend that I'm doing here so that I'm pulling this big hip flexor muscle into a stretch. We're going to get to this again, but it sort of feels nice to me right now to stretch out these big fight or flight muscles a little more slowly. Yesterday was a little stressful, and it was stressful for, dumb reasons, but already we're kind of under pressure, so even dumb reasons kind of stress you out more than they would normally. All right, so then we're going to take the hips back and just for a moment give ourselves a chance to kind of fold over the leg. If it feels better to drift your leg a little further out, you can do that. Now you could step into downward dog, or you can come back to a child's pose. And do that as a little in-between check-in. That feels good. Take one more breath. And then you'll either step your left leg forward or come up and bring it forward. Okay, so again, for these first couple of rounds, I'm going to leave my hand down. So I'm going to ease the hips forward and ease the hips back. And ease the hips forward and ease the hips back. And now I've done a couple of those, so I feel a little more comfortable coming up here. So there's a little bit more stretch and torque on that area. So I'm going to ease my hips forward and ease them back. And again, choose appropriately for your knee. Okay. So as I come back, I'm coming to the point where I don't feel the pressure anymore. And then I'm going to creep in, creep in, creep in until I just feel the beginning of that stretch, and then I'm going to increase the amount of back bend I'm doing. You might increase the amount of forward movement in your hip. So you're just feeling the stretch across the front of that right hip or your left hip, whichever one you're doing second. You may also be experiencing a stretch here in the glute, or in the hamstrings, or somewhere else. It's all connected. Nice big breath. Okay, and then we're going to send the hips back. Okay, yogis, one more stretch there. All right, so now we're all, if possible, going to go back to downward dog. If you need that little all fours position and you're going to hang with that guy, that's fine. So if downward dog is within your repertoire of poses, come into down dog. Make sure your arms are shoulder distance apart, that you can, in fact, get your shoulder blades nicely planted on your back. Hug the arms in a bit, and then lengthen up through the hips. And then, if this is your second downward dog or your third, then you might have already been here with the heels, but giving yourself a chance to really feel that kind of stretch through the back of the legs is nice. Okay, so we're going to take a nice big breath, take this right leg up. Now I'm going to hook this leg over my back, and then I'm going to bring it in and hug it in tight. Stretch it out, hook it over, give it a little extra stretch to that same area I was just stretching, hug it in. One more time, reach it out, maybe hook it over, and then hug in tight. And then stretching back, I'm going to level my pelvis and reach down into my heel, and then step that foot forward. Whether you step straight down the middle or out to the diagonal and bring it in, depends on your anatomy. So we're going to come into warrior two. I'm planting my foot and coming up, maybe with dramatic flair. And then adjust the hips so that they feel appropriate. Now, we're going to try to hug in really nice through the hips, really hold these guys stable as we do a little bit of this mermaid action, coming back and going over. And I'm using the core muscles here so that I'm not landing heavy on my thigh. You can certainly touch down on the leg to provide that stability. Maybe don't close your eyes. Or you can keep the arms circulating. But lengthen here and lengthen here, okay? So this side of the waist is gonna hug in to support me as this side lengthens. This side of the waist is gonna hug in to support me as this side lengthens. Last one, reach, reach, good. Straighten out this front leg. We're gonna let this hip kind of kick back as it needs to so that you can come down your leg and into the hamstring stretch that is the triangle pose. But it's everything else too. So I'm gonna keep my hand right here on this hip, And I'm going to lengthen out through my back, and I'm going to try to feel a sensation there. Okay? Kind of release that. Come back, stretch. As you plant that leg down, can you feel this outer hip responding? Okay, one more time, soften it. And then extend out, and this time we're gonna go all the way, maybe including the arms and maybe even looking up. You can also look down at your big toe if that's helpful. Stretching into that shape. Last breath here. Now we're going to sort of translate this same shape into a balance. So it's helpful sometimes to kind of wiggle the back foot in, shift the weight forward, and then come into your balancing pose, maybe holding on to things to get started, and then see if you can use these same muscles we were just experiencing to pick yourself up and extend out. Good, one more breath. And then we're going to put both hands and both feet back down on the floor and come back to down dog. When you get there, just pause and feel. Can you feel a difference in your two sides? All right, so now we're going to add in a plank. So adjusting the spacing, holding the plank really nice and firm. You can modify the plank and you're still going to hug in through the abs. Hug the sides of the waist in. Good, holding it for 3 more, 2 more, 1 more count. Now lowering all the way down. Come into cobra, and then we're going to come back down. We're going to do that 3 times, okay? Cobra, use your back muscles, not your arms. Work those legs. Good. Last one. Stretch the legs, press them down, lift into cobra. Draw the elbows back. Give your neck a rinse. Hold it steady. And then coming down, we're going to push back up to our plank and push back up to our dog. And then do the other side. All right, yogis, finding your footing. Footing. You're going to take your left leg up, hook it over, bring it in, hug, ha. Stretch it back, hook it over, bring it in, ha. Stretch it back, hook it over, bring it in, ha. Stretch it back, level the pelvis, sink into your standing heel, and then step your foot forward. And again, we'll come to warrior 2. With or without dramatic flourish. And then you're going to find your hip where it doesn't feel like there's any pressure on the hip sockets. That's untoward. So this can be really stable. Hug in a bit. And then we're going to add our mermaid here. Reaching out. So I'm connecting here, reaching through the other side. Connecting here, reaching through this other side. Stretch. And back. And stretch. Oh. And back. 2 more. Stretch. Ooh, and back. Good. Last one. Stretch. Oh, come back. All right, so we're going to straighten out the leg. I'm going to, again, let this hip kick out a little bit. And for your triangle, you'll feel it. What's the right amount of kick out for you? So I'm lengthening. Hands on this hip. Bend your knee a little bit. Lengthen, press this foot into the floor. Try to feel that sensation of this outer hip kicking on to stabilize you. Bend your knee a little bit. And then find that outer hip, stabilize you, lengthen your spine. Add the arm as you see fit. Keep the arm part of your shoulder. You don't have to hyperextend at the shoulder joint here. It might not point straight up. Look up at your thumb or down at your toe as your preference and tonight, indicates. All right, 1 more big breath here. Good. And then we're going to take this into the balance, and I might be a little more willing to be springy. Or maybe I'm going to wiggle that leg in. So again, lift with this outer hip. Feel yourself get lighter on your hand so that you're holding the pose with your core and your outer hip. Nice big breath. 1 more if you can do it. And then we'll put both hands down and step both feet back and come into downward dog. And once you get there, just pausing for a moment, yogis. Oh. I'm shaking out your head a little bit. We're going to come forward into the plank. And again, you can either hold the full plank or modify your plank. Draw in through the sides of the waist. Let that kind of upper back all the way to your knees be a slope. Hold it steady here for 3, 2, 1. And then we're lowering all the way down. Nice and with control. Okay. So we're going to do some work with locust. Now, you can have your arms stretched back. I like mine about right there. And I like the fingers forward because it gives me a little bit of something to press down into as I come into the locust. So we're going to lift the chest, lift the legs, and then I press my palms down and draw back, right? You can also do that this way. I just like the stretch in my wrist. Okay, come on down. So we're going to do that again. Lift, press back, lengthen, see how high you can get off the floor without trouble. Good, come on back down. And then this time, we're going to hold it. So we're going to lift, lengthen. See if you can get a little bit more leverage on that upper body. Reach through those legs. Good. 2 more. It's harder to breathe in this pose because your belly's on the floor, so see if you can breathe into that upper chest. Good. Then come on down. Bring your legs back and forth a little bit. Ooh, that's nice. All right, yogis. We're going to take ourselves back to down dog. Ooh. Now, hopefully you're already there. And if you were also taking a moment to hydrate, that's fine too. All right, so from down dog, we're going to take this right leg up. We're going to come across the body. You might be able to touch your elbow. Come back, go to the outside, maybe touch your upper arm. One more time, inside, swing it back, outside, swing it back, pause, hips level, sink into your heel, stretch back. Woo. And then step your foot forward. And we're going to come to warrior 1. So I'm going to bring my leg in, and I'm going to keep this heel a little tighter. You may want to adjust a little bit once you're standing so that it feels like it's easy to face forward. Now we're going to do the spine stretch, and so if it's better to go at the diagonal here, do that, because we're trying to get our spine to lengthen. So the legs are holding us steady, hugging in nice and tight through the side waist. We're going to stretch out at the diagonal here. I want to start to feel how my core has to kick on to stabilize me, and if it feels better to come a little to the inside, do. And then you're going to keep stretching, keep stretching, keep stretching, keep stretching. When you run out of room, because either you're resting on your thigh or your forehead just touched the floor, whatever it might be, then we're going to roll up. So we're going to stabilize through the legs and hips, and we're going to try to keep the spine as relaxed as it can stay as we roll it up vertebrae by vertebrae all the way to standing. And this is a little wobbly, and so that's part of the fun. Let's do it 2 more times. So we're going to stretch out and then reach, 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 reach. And then we're going to roll up nice and slow. So I'm bringing my pelvis back first. My spine is relaxed as I try. And there's parts that work as a unit because they're connected to our ribs. So there's as close as I can, vertebrae by vertebrae. All right, one more time. We're going to stretch it out. Reach, stretch, 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 stretch. All the way down, and then we're going to roll it up, and try to keep yourself, feel those spinal vertebrae, even if you have to hold on to something, see if you can feel those vertebrae stack up. Okay, so now I'm going to adjust my legs so that I can turn wide to the side, okay? I brought my feet in a little bit, turn my toes in a little bit. Yours might be better turned out. Then we're going to fold. Because I just did something asymmetric, we're going to see if we can feel that. So can you feel the difference on the sides of your neck or your spine or your hip? Nice deep breaths. Good. Now, if you can, you're going to rotate your toes out just a little bit, and we're going to kind of sink over into a half squat. If your knee is tender, don't go very far past your toes, if at all. You can take the legs out a little wider. Okay, so we're just going to get into the squat. And basically, I just want to make sure that whatever angle I've got my foot at, it matches with my knee's ideas about things. So if my knee says, let's go the other way, let the foot go with your knee. Oh. Okay, one more time on each side, so that's one. And then one over here. And then I'm going to walk myself all the way around and back into downward dog. Okay. So feeling, and then coming into plank, and maybe adding on by taking a leg up, or taking away by adding the modification. And then we're going to lower down. This time you can go halfway if you want to and hover, or come all the way down, come into your cobra or your upward dog, and then come back to downward dog. Ooh. We're going to do that same thing, but on the other side. So left leg is going to go up, come across, come back, come to the outer arm, or as close as you can get it. Back, across, back, upper arm. Ooh. Stretch it back, level the pelvis, sink into that heel. Ooh. And then step forward. And we're going to find that warrior one shape again, so that I feel a little more narrow and I'm able to face forward. And again, when I get to that spine stretch, I might need to angle it to go with my hip, okay? So legs are pressing in, hips are stabilizing me. Stretch out, and then keep reaching. Keep reaching, keep reaching, keep reaching. Press and lift through your inner thighs to help hold yourself and roll up one vertebrae at a time. Stretch. Stretch out. Oh, reach. Keep reaching, keep reaching, keep reaching. Keep this foot lifting back. And then roll up. Oh. I like to do this with my eyes closed, but it makes it a little extra wobbly. All right, one more time. So reach it up. Stretch out. Oh, reach, 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 reach. And then we're going to come up nice and slow. Stabilize through your hips. Oh. Oh. All right, yogis. We're going to turn the feet around. And again, we're going to go for this wide angle forward bend. And you might wiggle your feet out. And I'm going to take this one as an opportunity to stretch a little bit more through my glutes. So I'm going to lean it back a little, like I'm going to fall toward you. My upper body is clearly helping to hold me stable, but by leaning into it a little bit, I feel that more in the fibers of my glutes and less in my hamstrings. That might be different for you. Oh. And one more big breath. All right, so we're going to shift ourselves forward just enough to come back into this little half squat. If it invites you in a little deeper this round, cool. Oh. All right. Now, we're going to walk around and step back into dog. And what you can do is you can go ahead and add in a vinyasa, coming into plank, lowering down, taking a back bend. Or you can just take this downward dog and pause with it and wait out your friends. Okay, so hopefully we're all back to downward dog. We're going to take the right leg up, we're going to bring this leg forward, and we're going to see if we can bring the shin to the ground for a pigeon. Now, yogis, pigeon is a tricky pose. And so, if when you get into this shape, it's way too spicy, flip your pigeon upside down. You can do it upside down. I'm going to angle it so I have a little more room for my leg. Oh. Now, you might appreciate the back bend quality of this. this kind of hip opening over here. It might be all about this little spicy muscle in your butt cheek. And you can fold forward more to take away some of the pressure, or upward more, depending on which one takes away the pressure. And we're all a little different, so it's hard to know for sure. And we're going to hold this for about 5 more breaths. So take a big inhale, and as you exhale, you're going to sort of lean into this bent leg hip. We'll bring the back leg around. And we're going to take this leg on top such that you can still get both your sit bones on the floor, okay? So if your leg wraps all the way around, cool. If it wraps only halfway around, that's also going to work. Sit up tall, lean back a little bit, twist towards the leg that's on top, and then bring yourself back up. And then plant the arms and get taller. You can look over the front shoulder or over the back shoulder, yogis. The front shoulder feels really nice because I'm taking the shoulder blade up on this side and drawing it back into my back. And then as I let my head go forward, there's this lovely stretch right here. And it's not a big stretch, it's just a stretch that helps encourage the lymphatic flow through my head and neck. Which is if I'm being exposed to an unusual amount of potential invaders, it might be nice to make sure that the lymph is flowing nicely through my face. I don't know if it'll help that much, but it can't hurt. All right, we're coming around. So now we're going to unwind this front leg and pause for a moment. Now, some of us are just going to pause. Some of us might roll over the legs, step back into a plank, and finish that with a vinyasa. All right, so we can return to down dog, or you can just, from where you are, take your pigeon on the other side. And then bringing yourself into the pigeon stretch on the other side that feels like it's the right amount of pigeon for you. And don't be surprised if one side's different than the other. It almost always is, at least for me. Okay. So you might decide, oh, it's nicer when I go low. Or you might decide, oh, it's nicer when I stay high. Or grabbing a foot or doing some of the in-between spaces that your pose allows for. Again, we're going to take about 5 more breaths or so here. Take a nice big breath. Let go with a sigh. And then you're going to let your back leg come around. Establish both sit bones on the floor. Get tall, lean back, twist. And then bring yourself back up so that your pose is nice and tall. Nice big breaths. And maybe that head goes the opposite direction. So taking the shoulder blade down and letting the head fall away. It feels nice. And 2 more big breaths. We're going to let the body spin around out of there. Oh. All right, yogis, before we do a little side work, we're going to do a little boat pose. Now, if you want to turn your boat pose into a teaser, no one's going to stop you. So to do the boat pose so that we don't wreck the low back, you're going to lengthen and hug in through the sides, right? And then grab the backs of your knees and use those hip flexors to bring the thighs up, because that is part of the pose. Then I'm going to use the abdominals to stabilize me. And you might add the movement or just hold on. or not. So we're going to hold steady. One more. You still got one more teaser to finish. Finish your teaser. And then we're going to roll onto one side. Now we're going to focus on this gluteus medius area and this little tiny muscle that's friends with the gluteus medius. It sort of feels like where your jeans pockets are. And this guy can get really tight and snug, and because it goes right into the IT band, if we can get this gluteus medius a little stronger, it'll take pressure off of this little muscle right here. It really is a muscle that mostly just helps. It does have one primary function, but that's we're going to talk about in just a second. So my torso is stable, shoulders over shoulders, hips over hips. And then I'm going to bend the knees and lift the feet. Now, if I need more stability, I bring the knees forward a bit and lift the feet. If I want to keep a little bit more action, so I have to fire my abs a little bit more, then the knees stay a little further back, okay? So with the knees resting and the feet together, we're going to open this leg, okay? This externally rotates my thigh bone. Now this makes my outer hip kick on to stabilize there and do that work. When I extend the leg, that makes this work harder. Bring the toes together, bring the knees together. Now that's this muscle's job, is just to turn that thigh in, okay? So it lets go, I extend, bring it back, turn it in. So I'm really working with just this one move, everything in this outer part of my hip. And in part, this can help with problems that you may be having with your IT band. That can also be your glute maximus, so that it's a more complicated picture, but you get the idea. This can help, okay? So we're gonna do 4 more of these. We're hoping to tucker out this muscle here. So it really has to do some work. I got 1 more to go for me, and you might have 2 because of the delay. All right, so when you've done that 4th one, we're gonna stretch the legs back out. And now we're going to kind of stretch this area one more time and work these inner thighs a little bit. Now, I like to put my foot on the ground like this. You may prefer your leg out straight. Both are fine. This is just to stabilize, okay? So then we're going to lift this bottom leg. I'm going to try not to fall backward. I'm going to try to keep myself stable here, hugging through the abdominal muscles. And then as deep as I can feel in the belly to lift that thigh, I'm going to try to use all the muscles. So we're going to go 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And then hold that leg steady and deepen the abdominal draw in for 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. We're going to lower that leg, okay? Give yourself a little twisty stretch. Oh, because that feels really lovely. And then we're going to switch to the other side. Now you could just roll over onto your other side if you like. I'm going to do this 180-degree spin here. Okay. You can see me all right. All right, so I stack up my hips, stack up my shoulders, my knees in line with my hips, bend the knees, lift the feet. Make sure that your knees are okay with whatever you just did. You might need a little bit of a flex at your hip because the knee is getting pulled on, okay? Hug in through the abs to hold yourself stable. Knees open, extend, feel the work on the outer hip, bring it together, close it up, feel how that works, this little side pocket muscle. Okay, so we want to feel the muscle in the body, doing the work, holding through the abs. Choosing to treat the knee well. We're going to do 5 more, 4 more, 3 more. We got 2. And then this is our last one. You might still have to finish that. Okay. Once you're there, we're going to straighten the legs back out. Oh, doesn't that feel nice? We're going to bring this front leg forward. However it stabilizes for you. Now hug in through this abs, nice and snug, like you're pulling on a tight corset. Lift that bottom leg. We're going to pulse it up for 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Now hold and deepen the connection to your abdominals. Hold it steady. 10, 9, 8, 7. Hug the waist in. 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Bring that leg down. Add your little twist here. Oh, because that feels nice. Ooh, yogis. Now we're going to do a few moments of Shavasana. So to start with, roll onto your back and give yourself a little back massage. Oh, especially maybe right around the sacrum or into those low back areas. Okay. And then you can do this one leg at a time, or you can do both legs. I need to move myself just up and more in a diagonal. And then you're going to stretch, like I said, you can do one leg at a time, kind of reach that leg out and rinse it. Reach the other leg out, rinse it. Snuggle your shoulder blades in a bit. And then depending on how wide it feels good to bring your legs or take your arms out, find the right amount of space. Take a deep breath and then with your exhale, let go with a sigh. And if you see like, there's a little bit of tension still around my neck, rinse that out, or rinse out your palms. Adjust the legs so that you're not feeling any torque on your low back, which might include putting your feet on the ground or putting a blanket under your thighs. And then feel yourself just relaxing the soles of the feet. You might even stretch the toes apart and then relax them. And let the calf muscles relax. Try to feel this place where the femur bone hits the hip socket and drop the femurs into the hips a little deeper. Just let them settle in. Feel the beautiful kind of cascade of curves that is your spine. Can you feel your tailbone kind of gently curling in toward you? The outer curve that presses the sacrum toward the floor. The inner curve that lifts the low back gracefully off the ground. And then the curve that rests your ribs onto the ground. And the beautiful inner curve that makes your neck gently arch before your skull nicely rest. Relax the palms of the hands and the arms, and let the upper arm bone drop deeply against the shoulder blade. Feel your collarbones expand and gently relax. And relax your jaw and your mouth. And all of the tissue around your eyes and your forehead. And let the orb of each eye fall a little deeper into your head. Now yogis, if you've got some time to yourself this morning, you could just stay with your Shavasana. If you've got work to do, you can give yourself a little banana stretch by taking everything over one way. Oh, that feels good. And then do the same thing but on the other side. Oh. You might bring your legs all the way in or just windshield wiper the legs a little bit. I like to give myself a little hug. It's good to hug your favorite yogi every day. And then you can roll to the side or rock yourself up. And then just for a moment, pause once you get yourself seated. Take a deep breath and let go within. Hopefully, you're ready to go about your day. Thank you so much for joining me, y'all. Namaste.